The Great Hall of the Galactic Assembly was full of noise. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of worlds sat in their seats talking, arguing, and making deals. The building itself was older than human civilization. Its walls were made of black stone that seemed to eat light. Giant windows showed the stars outside. Admiral Unipark walked through the main doors. She wore her white uniform with pride. Her black hair was tied back in a simple style. Her face showed nothing but calm. Behind her walked the aides. Both young officers who had never been to this place before. The noise in the hall dropped a little when the humans entered. Some aliens turned to look. A few laughed quietly. Others simply ignored them. Una had been coming to this hall for 5 years now. 5 years of asking. 5 years of being told no. 5 years of watching her people suffer while the galaxy looked away. She walked to the central platform, where speakers could address the assembly. Her boots made soft sounds on the ancient floor. When she reached the platform, she pressed a button, and her translator activated. Honored members of the Galactic Assembly, she began. Her voice was steady and clear. I come before you again to speak about the trade routes in Sector 7. A sound came from the Velori section. It was something between a laugh and a hiss. The Velori were tall creatures with hard shells like insects. They had 4 arms and eyes that never blinked. Their representative, a commander named Keth, stood up again. Keth said. His voice was sharp like breaking glass. The humans come again to beg? Laughter spread through parts of the hall. Una did not react. She had heard worse. We do not beg, she said calmly. We ask for what is fair. Human cargo ships are being stopped in Sector 7. Our goods are being taken. Our people are being hurt. We ask only for safe passage, as the assembly laws promise to all member species. Keth waved one of his 4 arms. Your ships carry valuable goods through Velori space. You should pay for protection. We already pay the standard fees, Una replied. What your ships do is not protection. It is robbery. The hall went quiet for a moment. Then a new voice spoke up. It came from the Moran section. The Moran were large creatures like bears mixed with wolves. They were known for their strength and their cruelty. Their delegate Bryn had a mouthful of sharp teeth that showed when he smiled. Little humans, Bryn said. Always talking about what is fair. Always complaining. He stood up and spread his massive arms. In this galaxy, you take what you are strong enough to take. If you cannot protect your ships, that is your problem. More laughter, more noise. Una stood still and waited for it to end. Humanity has been a member of this assembly for 12 years, she said when the noise died down. In that time, we have given much. Our doctors have cured diseases on 17 worlds. Our engineers have built power plants for species who could not build their own. Our farmers have shared seeds that grow in any soil. She paused. We have asked for very little in return. Only fairness. Only peace. Keth made that hissing laugh again. And that is why you are weak. You give and never take. In the universe that makes you pray. Una looked at him for a long moment. Her face was still calm, but something moved behind her eyes. Something that Keth was too proud to notice. Perhaps, she said quietly, perhaps you were right. She turned and walked out of the hall. Her aides followed quickly, confused by her sudden exit. Back on the human flagship, ship called the Patience, Captain Tae Kim was waiting in the landing bay. He was a tall man with a kind face and tired eyes. He had served in the human fleet for 20 years, and he had seen many things. But nothing made him more tired than watching the galaxy treat his people like dirt. How did it go? He asked as Una walked down the ramp from her shuttle. The same as always, she said. They laughed. They said no. They called us weak. Tae nodded slowly. And what did you say? I told them they might be right. Tae raised an eyebrow. That does not sound like you. Una stopped walking and looked at him. I am tired, Tae. Tired of smiling while they spit on us. Tired of being patient while our people suffer.
I know,
Tae said. We all are. They walked together through the ship. The Patience was not a warship, or at least it did not look like one. It was officially listed as a diplomatic vessel. But Tay knew what was hidden in its lower decks. He knew what humanity had been building in secret for years. In her office, Yuna sat down and closed her eyes. On her desk was a picture of her family back on Earth. Her mother, her father, her little sister. They lived in a small town near the mountains. They had no idea what she went through out here in the stars. "How long do we keep doing this?" Tay asked. He stood by the window, looking out at the stars. "How long do we keep turning the other cheek?" "Until we are told otherwise," Yuna said. "Those are our orders, and if the order never comes..." Yuna opened her eyes and looked at him. "Then we keep waiting. We keep documenting. We keep recording every crime, every insult, every death." Her voice was soft, but firm. "Because if the day ever comes when humanity has had enough, we will need to show the galaxy exactly why." Tay nodded. He understood. The humans were not weak. They were not afraid. They were simply waiting, building, preparing, and hoping with all their hearts that the galaxy would never push them far enough to see what they were truly capable of. But deep down, in places they did not like to visit, both Yuna and Tay knew the truth. The galaxy was cruel. The galaxy was unfair. And sooner or later, someone would push too hard. When that day came, the stars themselves would remember. 3 years passed. 3 long years of insults. 3 years of stolen ships. 3 years of human blood spilled on distant worlds. And still, humanity waited. Still, they smiled. Still, they hoped. New Busan was a small world at the edge of human space. It was not important. It had no military bases. It had no great cities. It was just a farming colony where 40,000 people lived simple lives. They grew grain that could survive in almost any soil. They raised animals brought from Earth. They built homes and schools, and small temples where they prayed for peace. Governor Sung Ho was an old man with white hair and a gentle smile. He had come to New Busan 20 years ago when it was just empty land. He had helped build the first buildings with his own hands. He knew every family. He had held their children when they were born. He had cried at their weddings. On the morning the Valori came, Sung was drinking tea in his small office. Through his window, he could see the golden fields stretching to the horizon. Children were walking to school. Farmers were starting their work. It was a beautiful day. Then the sky turned dark. Valori warships. 30 of them dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the colony. They blocked the sun. Their shadows fell over the fields like a disease. Sung stood up so fast that his teacup fell and broke on the floor. He ran to the communication room as fast as his old legs could carry him. "This is Governor Sung Ho of New Busan," he said into the emergency channel. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. We have no weapons. We have no soldiers. Please, someone help us." The only response was static. Commander Keth stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the human colony on his screens. He could see the tiny figures running in panic. He could see the smoke already rising from the first buildings his ships had destroyed. "Sir," one of his officers said, "there is no military presence here. These are just farmers." "I know," Keth replied. "That is the point," gave the order. His ships began their work. For 6 hours, the Valori burned New Busan. They destroyed the water systems first, then the power plants, then the grain storage buildings that held enough food to feed a dozen hungry worlds. They did not attack the people directly at first. They wanted them to suffer. They wanted them to understand fear. Governor Sung tried to organize the evacuation, but there was nowhere to go. The Valori ships had blocked all escape routes. All he could do was gather people in the central square and pray. When Keth finally landed his shuttle in the middle of the burning colony, Sung was waiting for him. "Why?" the old man asked. His voice was not angry. It was simply tired and sad. "We have done nothing to you. These are just families, just children." Keth looked down at him. The Valori commander was 3 times the size of the human, but somehow, in that moment, Sung seemed like the larger one. "You exist," Keth said. "That is enough. Humanity needs to learn its place." He pulled out a weapon. The execution was broadcast live to every corner of the galaxy. Keth made sure of that. He wanted everyone to see. He wanted humanity to understand. He stood over the governor's body and spoke directly to the cameras. A message to humanity, Keth declared. This is what happens to those who forget where they belong. Know your place. Stay in your place, or we will put you there. He turned and walked back to his shuttle. Behind him, New Busan continued to burn. On Earth, in a room deep underground, President Dae-hyun watched the broadcast. Around him sat his cabinet. Military leaders, scientists, diplomats, every important person in human government. No one spoke. The only sound was the broadcast. Keth's voice, the screaming of colonists in the background, the crackle of flames when the broadcast ended. Day did not move for a long time. He stared at the blank screen. His hands were folded on the table in front of him. His face showed nothing. "Sir," one of his aides whispered. Day closed his eyes. In his mind, he saw the faces of his own children. He thought about the children of New Busan. He thought about the old governor who had done nothing wrong except believe in peace. "Get me Admiral Park," he said finally. His voice was very quiet, very calm, and very, very cold. "Sir, what message should I send?" Day opened his eyes. Something had changed in them, something that his cabinet had never seen before. It was not anger. Anger was hot and fast. This was something else, something old and deep and terrible. "Tell her the waiting is over," he said. "Tell her to show the galaxy why we were patient." The aide swallowed hard. "Sir, are you sure? Once we start this, we cannot go back." Day looked at the blank screen where the governor's death had played. He thought about 12 years of insults, 12 years of pain, 12 years of turning the other cheek while the galaxy laughed. "They killed our children," he said. "They burned our farms. They murdered an old man whose only crime was growing food for hungry people." He stood up slowly. "I wanted peace. I prayed for peace. But they have made their choice." He walked to the door and stopped. "History will remember this day," he said without turning around. "They will remember what the Valor did. And they will remember what we did in response. Make sure that when they compare the two, they understand the difference." He left the room. Around the world, orders began to flow. Secret channels came alive with coded messages. In deep space, hidden bases started to wake up. Ships that had been sleeping for years began to power on their engines. Humanity had been patient for 12 long years. That patience had finally reached its end, and the galaxy was about to learn why that was the worst possible news. For 12 years, the galaxy had asked questions about humanity. Why did they build so many research stations in empty space? Why did their cargo ships need such thick walls? Why did their mining vessels carry such powerful engines? The answers they gave were always boring. Scientific study. Safety measures. Better efficiency. The galaxy accepted these answers because they wanted to believe them. It was easier to think of humans as soft and weak. It was comfortable to imagine them as prey. In 72 hours, that comfort died. Deep in space, far from any trade route or colony, a human research station began to change. Its outer shell, painted white with scientific symbols, started to split apart. Metal screamed as hidden joints unlocked. The station unfolded like a flower made of steel and death. What emerged was not a laboratory. It was a carrier platform, loaded with hundreds of fighter craft that had waited in darkness for over a decade. Across the galaxy, the same thing happened again and again. A cargo ship drifting through Moran space suddenly dropped its disguise. Its fake hull fell away to reveal a battlecruiser with weapons that glowed blue with terrible energy. In Velare territory, 3 mining vessels that had been pulling rocks from an asteroid belt powered up their true systems. They were not miners. They were dreadnoughts. Capital ships designed for one purpose: total war. Admiral Una Park stood on the Bridge of the Reckoning. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built. For 10 years, it had hidden inside what the galaxy thought was a deep space telescope array. Now it floated in open space. surrounded by lights from 400 other vessels that had answered the call. The bridge was quiet. Every officer sat at their station, faces lit by screens and readouts. No one spoke. No one needed to. They had trained for this moment for years. They had hoped it would never come. But now that it had, they were ready. "All ships reporting ready," Admiral Commander Jin Woo said. He was a young man with a serious face and steady hands. 412 vessels. Full combat capability. Yuna nodded slowly. She looked out the main window at the fleet spreading before her. So many ships. So much power. All of it built in secret. All of it hidden behind smiles and peaceful words. "Open a channel," she said. "All frequencies. Every species. I want the whole galaxy to hear this." Jin worked his controls. Lights flickered across his console. "You're alive, Admiral. Broadcasting to all known communication networks." Yuna took a deep breath. She thought about Governor Sung. She thought about the children of New Busan. She thought about 12 years of patience that had finally run out. Her face appeared on screens across the galaxy. On space stations and homeworlds. On ships and colonies. On military bases and private homes. Every species that had ever looked down on humanity now saw her face looking back at them. "My name is Admiral Yuna Park of the Human Defense Fleet," she began. Her voice was calm. Not angry. Not threatening. Just tired and sad, like a teacher disappointed in her students. "For 12 years, humanity has been a member of the Galactic Assembly. In that time, we have given everything we could. Our doctors healed your sick. Our engineers built your power plants. Our farmers shared seeds that saved worlds from starvation. We asked for nothing in return except fairness and peace." She paused. Around the galaxy, billions of beings leaned closer to their screens. "You laughed at us," Yuna continued. "You stole from us. You called us weak and soft. We accepted all of this. We told ourselves that peace was worth any price. We believed that if we were kind enough, patient enough, you would eventually see us as equals." Her voice changed. It became harder, colder. 3 days ago, Valori forces attacked a human farming colony. They burned the crops that were meant to feed hungry worlds. They destroyed the homes of 40,000 innocent people. And they executed Governor Sung Ho, a good man whose only crime was believing in peace. She let those words hang in the silence. "We did not want this. We never wanted this. Every ship you see behind me was built in hope that we would never have to use it. Every weapon was forged with prayers that it would stay silent forever." Her eyes seemed to look directly at every being watching. "But you made your choice. You decided that our kindness was weakness. You decided that our patience was fear. You were wrong." The broadcast showed the fleet behind her. Hundreds of ships, dark and powerful, their weapons glowing with barely contained energy. Ships that should not exist. Ships that nobody had known about. "What you see is only part of what we have built. While you laughed at our cargo ships and research stations, we prepared. While you counted us as prey, we became something else. Not because we wanted to, because you gave us no choice." Admiral Park's voice softened, but somehow that made it more frightening. "To the Valori, I say this: we are coming. Not to destroy your species. Not to kill your children. We are not you. But Commander Keth will answer for what he has done. Your military will answer for what it allowed. And your government will answer for what it ordered." She straightened in her chair. "To every other species in the galaxy, I say this: watch carefully. Watch what we do and how we do it. And when it is over, remember. Remember that we tried peace first. Remember that we begged for fairness. Remember that we only asked to be treated with basic respect." Her final words echoed across the stars. "You wanted to see what humanity is capable of. Now you will see. And you will never, ever forget." The broadcast ended. The screens went dark, and then the human fleet began to move. Across the galaxy, military commanders scrambled to their stations. Politicians called emergency meetings. Ordinary citizens watched the sky with new eyes, wondering what was coming. The humans had been patient for so long. Now their patience was gone, and the galaxy was about to learn that nothing is more dangerous than a kind heart that has finally been broken. The Valori homeworld was called Varith. It had 3 moons and oceans that glowed green at night. For 10,000 years, the Valori had ruled from this world. They had conquered dozens of species. They had built an empire on fear and strength. No enemy had ever reached their sky. The humans arrived on the 5th day after. Admiral Park's broadcast, General Keth had gathered every ship the Valori had. 3 massive defense fleets surrounded Varath. 1,500 warships, each one built for battle. The Valori were not afraid. They had more ships. They had more experience. They had won 100 wars. The battle lasted 9 hours. It was not close. Human ships moved in ways that Valori sensors could not track. Their weapons fired beams that cut through Valori shields like paper. When Valori fighters launched to attack, human pilots shot them down with calm precision. No panic, no chaos. Just cold, professional destruction. By the 6th hour, half the Valori fleet was burning in space. By the 8th hour, their commanders were begging for mercy. By the 9th hour, it was over. Not one human ship had been destroyed. Captain Tae Kim led the ground assault. His transport ship descended through the smoke of the orbital battle and landed in the main square of the Valori capital. Around him, thousands of human soldiers poured out of their vessels. They wore black armor and carried weapons that hummed with energy, but they did not fire blindly. They did not burn buildings. They did not attack anyone who did not attack them first. A Valori child, small and confused, ran across the street in panic. She was crying, her 4 arms wrapped around herself. A human soldier saw her. He lowered his weapon, knelt down, and held out his hand. "It is okay," he said through his translator. "We will not hurt you. Come here. We will take you somewhere safe." The child stared at him with her large, unblinking eyes. Slowly, carefully, she walked to him. He picked her up gently and carried her to a medical team that was setting up a safe zone for civilians. Across the city, the same scenes played out again and again. Human soldiers fought the Valori military with deadly skill. But when they found civilians, they protected them. When they found wounded enemies, they gave them medical care. When they found children, they made sure they were safe. A captured Valori officer watched in confusion as humans carried his people to safety. His hands were bound behind his back, and 2 soldiers stood guard over him. But no one had hurt him. No one had even raised their voice. "I do not understand," the officer said. "We killed your people. We burned your colony. Why do you not do the same to us?" Tae Kim walked over to him. The captain's face was tired and sad, but his eyes were steady. "Because we are not you," Tae said simply. "We never wanted to be warriors. You forced this on us. But we will not become monsters just because you are one." "Then you are fools," the officer spat. "Mercy is weakness. Your kindness will be forgotten, and we will rise again to destroy you." Tae shook his head. "No, you will remember this day forever. You will remember that you did your worst to us, and we responded with justice, not revenge. That memory will burn in your hearts far longer than any fire we could set." He walked away. Leaving the officer in confused silence, Commander Keth was found in a bunker deep beneath the government building. He had surrounded himself with guards, but they surrendered the moment the humans breached the doors. Keth himself tried to fight. He was disarmed in seconds. They brought him in chains to Admiral Park. She had come down to the surface too, oversee the final phase of the operation. She stood in what had been the Valori throne room, surrounded by human officers and Valori prisoners. Keth was thrown to his knees before her. His shell was cracked in several places. One of his forearms hung at a bad angle, but his eyes still held defiance. "Should kill me," he said. "That is what I would do." Yuna looked down at him. Her face showed no satisfaction, no anger, only that same exhausted sadness she had worn since the day New Busan burned. "I know," she said. "That is exactly why I will not." She turned to her officers. "Prepare him for transport. He will stand trial before the Galactic Assembly. The whole galaxy will see exactly what he did and exactly what we did in response. They will judge for themselves who the monsters are. This is not over, Keth hissed. Others will come. Others will finish what I started. Una knelt down to look him in the eyes. No, she said quietly. They will not. Because every species in the galaxy is watching right now. They see how we fight. They see how we treat the defeated. And they understand something you never did. What? That mercy and strength can exist in the same heart. That you do not have to become evil to defeat evil. She stood up. You thought our kindness was weakness. But kindness, backed by power, is the most terrifying thing in the universe. Because it means we choose to be good. We could be as cruel as you, but we choose not to be. And that choice will haunt you for the rest of your life. She turned and walked away. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy. The Valerie Empire had fallen. Their fleet was destroyed. Their leader was captured. And through it all, the humans had protected innocent lives. Even the lives of their enemies. The Moran Confederacy surrendered without a single shot. Their leaders sent messages of apology and offers of reparation. 7 other species who had wronged humanity did the same. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Not through terror, not through destruction, but through the simple, powerful truth that the humans had shown them. Sometimes, the most dangerous thing in the universe is not rage. It is righteous sorrow. 1 year had passed since the fall of the Valerie Empire. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. Trade routes that had once been dangerous were now safe. Pirates who had terrorized shipping lanes had disappeared. Colonies that had lived in fear now slept peacefully under open skies, and at the center of it all stood humanity. The Galactic Assembly met in the same great hall where Una Park had once been laughed at. The same black stone walls, the same giant windows showing the stars, but the feeling inside was completely different. Where there had once been noise and chaos, there was now quiet respect. When the human delegation entered, every representative in the hall rose to their feet. Not in threat, not in challenge. An honor ambassador, Nari Lee, walked at the front. She was a small woman with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had spent 30 years as a diplomat, working in the shadows, always hoping for peace. Now she walked into a room that finally understood what peace required. A new seat had been prepared for the human delegation. It was larger than before, placed at the center of the chamber where everyone could see it. Nari sat down slowly, looking around at the hundreds of species watching her. "Thank you," she said simply. Her voice was soft but carried through the entire hall. Humanity is grateful for this welcome, though I think we all wish it had come under different circumstances. No one laughed. No one made jokes. The memory of what had happened was still too fresh. 1 year ago, we showed the galaxy what we could do, Nari continued. Today I want to talk about what we will do. She pressed a button, and images appeared on screens around the hall. Human doctors treating sick aliens on distant worlds. Human engineers building new power plants. Human ships carrying food to hungry colonies. Our mission has not changed, Nari said. We came to the stars to explore, to learn, and to help. We built weapons because we had to, but we would rather build bridges. We trained soldiers because you gave us no choice, but we would rather train teachers. She stood up and walked to the center of the platform. Where speakers traditionally addressed the assembly, humanity does not want an empire. We do not want to rule the galaxy. What we want, what we have always wanted, is simple. She looked around the room, meeting eyes with delegates from species that had once mocked her people. Respect, fairness, the chance to live in peace beside our neighbors. Voice came from the Moran section. It was Bryn, the same delegate who had once called humans weak. His voice trembled as he spoke. "How can we believe you?" he asked. "You have the power to crush us all. How do we know you will not become the very thing you destroyed?" It was a fair question. Everyone in the hall had been thinking it. Nari smiled sadly. "You cannot know for certain. Just as we could not know whether your species would attack us. Trust must be built over time, through actions, not words. But I can tell you this. On the day we defeated the Velour, we could have burned their world. We could have killed every soldier, every leader, every citizen who supported their government. No one could have stopped us. The hall was completely silent. Instead, we protected their children. We healed their wounded. We gave food to their hungry. Nari's voice grew stronger. Not because we are weak, not because we are foolish, but because we know what kind of species we want to be, and we will not let anyone, not even our enemies, change that. She returned to her seat. We will continue to help the galaxy. We will continue to share our medicine and our food and our knowledge. Our doctors will still heal any species that needs healing. Our engineers will still build for any world that needs building. Her eyes hardened just slightly. But never again mistake our kindness for weakness. Never again test our patience. Because we have shown you what happens when that patience runs out. The session ended in thoughtful silence. Delegates returned to their ships and their worlds, carrying with them a new understanding of the small species from the blue planet. In the months that followed, humanity took on a new role in the galaxy. They became peacekeepers, stepping in to stop wars before they could start. They became mediators, helping species with ancient hatred find common ground. They became teachers, showing younger civilizations how to grow without destroying each other. The Trial of Commander. Keth was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched as the evidence was presented. Videos of New Busan burning, recordings of Keth's orders, testimony from survivors, and alongside it all, footage of how the humans had responded. The children they had saved, the wounded they had healed, the mercy they had shown to a defeated enemy. Keth was sentenced to life imprisonment, not execution. The humans wanted him alive to serve as a reminder. On the anniversary of New Bison's destruction, a memorial was built on the site where Governor Sung-ho had died. Representatives from dozens of species came to pay their respects. Many of them had once laughed at humanity. Now, they stood in silence, heads bowed, understanding at last what they had failed to see. Admiral Una Park stood at the front of the crowd. Her uniform was covered with medals she had never wanted to earn. Her hair had gone gray at the edges, but her eyes were still steady, still calm. A young Valori approached her after the ceremony. He was barely old enough to speak, his shell still soft with youth. "My teacher told me what your people did," he said. "She said you could have killed us all, but you chose not to." Una knelt down to meet his eyes. "That is right." "Why?" Una thought for a moment. "Because being strong is easy? Anyone can destroy. The hard thing, the important thing, is choosing to build instead. Choosing to protect instead of hurt. Choosing to be kind when you could be cruel." The child considered this. "Were you always this way?" "No," Una admitted. "We had to learn. We made many mistakes. But we kept trying to be better." She smiled gently. "Maybe one day, your people will teach the galaxy the same lessons. Maybe you will be the ones who show everyone what true strength looks like." The child nodded slowly and walked back to his family. Una stood up and looked at the sky. Somewhere up there, human ships still patrolled, still protected, still waited. And somewhere in the hearts of every species in the galaxy, a memory burned. A memory of what humanity had endured. A memory of what they had become. A memory that no species would ever forget.